So podcast one, Story of the Rock. So my parents, were immigrants, and they had a hard life, and they didn't have a lot of enjoyment. It's basically a lot of work, take care of the kids, just trying to survive. They did have one thing they liked a lot, and that was fishing. And I'm not talking about, out on a boat or, big reels. I'm talking about literally a line, a hook, and a sinker thrown over with their hands. And there was one time we went to, pretty sure it was Orchard Beach. We took the subway all the way to the end of the line. We walked across Orchard Beach in the Bronx, and then we went to this big rock. I'm pretty sure that big rock is still there. It's not just a rock, it's a boulder. It's pretty much like, it looks like it's almost about maybe 10 to 12 feet high, maybe 6 feet wide and 4 feet deep. And so this is a rare day off for my parents, and I was very young, my older brother. I think I was maybe, I'm not sure, but probably like 4 or 5. And so my parents are fishing, and they're having, like, you could just tell they're so relaxed and chilling. It was just chill. They were so happy just to sit there. I don't think we caught any fish, but they were just sitting there literally holding a line. We had this one little tackle box that had everything in it, and they had put that on the rock. So we climb up to the top of the rock, and they're fishing. They're sitting with their feet over the edge, fishing into the water. And they're there for hours and just having a relaxing time, which is rare for them. And I start to look around, and I notice that the water's rising. And now I know, the tide comes in. So I wasn't fishing. I never liked fishing, but I'm watching my parents fish, and my brother, I think he might have been doing something with the tackle box, and I'm watching this water rise, and it's still rising. And as I'm watching it rise, I see that it's getting pretty high. In fact, at one point I realized it was getting to the point where it's almost above my head. So I said to my parents, I said, Mommy, Daddy, how are we getting back to the beach? And they were like, oh, we're going to walk. And I was like, okay. And then they were so upset about being disturbed from this one relaxing time they have by their youngest son, complaining or saying something about, how are we getting back? So I'm watching this water still rise up, and it's still rising. So I say to my parents again, are you sure we're going to be able to get back? Yeah, we can get back. Come on. Just walk back. How do you think we got here? I said, yeah, but, and I'm waiting, and I'm watching that it's still rising. I said, and finally I said, I realized I didn't know how to swim, and I had to say something. So I said, are you sure we're going to be able to get back? Because, the water is really high now. Now my parents look around, they go, ah! And all of a sudden they're panicking, they're picking up the fishing tackle, and then they're grabbing everything, and they realized the water was actually above my head. I can't swim. My father can swim. My mother couldn't swim. I don't know if my brother could swim then either. He might have been able to, but they start gathering everything. They gather everything, and we climb down the rock, and I'm on my father's. My father was 5'10" at his prime, and the water was up to his chest already. And probably it's pretty close to 4 o'clock, the tide coming in, and he had me, I think, pretty much held me like this, but he also had to hold my mother up. So, and my mother is 5'6", so she's pretty tall, but I think it was like almost here on her neck. And we're all walking back in the water, as I recall. And I think my brother, maybe had the fishing tackle. I think my father had the fishing tackle box in one hand, had me up here. And then my mother was walking with my brother and maybe holding him up or something, or he was swimming. I'm not sure, but we got back. And I remember a lesson I learned from that. And the lesson was, adults don't know everything. It was the first time that I realized that adults do not know everything. They didn't listen to me because I'm just a kid and they're the adults. But I realized they were wrong. And in fact, it became a dangerous situation. Years later, I think 4 or 5 years later, we're in upstate New York. And life is a little bit better for our family. Not much. We're still living in the hood and stuff like that. But I had never been on an airplane. And there was an airplane ride back then. A lot of money back then, $25 to go up in a plane. And everyone else in my family had flown, but I had never flown. And I said, could I just fly this one time? And my parents, at this, I know they loved their family. We loved each other. And this was a big sacrifice for them. They said, okay, you can go fly. Just me, because I was the only one who really wanted so bad. So they paid $25, a lot of money back then. And I flew up in a single-engine plane. I don't remember whether it was a Cessna, but whatever. We're flying. And I'm having the best time. I'm looking around, and it's just like, wow. It's like, look down there. Everything's so small, and I can see. I think it was the Lake George area, and I can see all the trees. And I'm looking around, and then I see on the side here, there's another plane coming right at us. I mean, right at us. And the pilot's just kind of, flying the plane, clearly not looking this way. And I'm looking over there again. And I remember the rock. And I thought, adults don't know everything. So I turned to the pilot, and I kept looking, and I kept saying, well, maybe he'll fly the other way, and maybe he'll go down or go up or something like that. So I didn't want to say anything because I was enjoying myself, and, he's an adult, and he knows what he's doing. He's a pilot. He's a professional. And I look again, and that freaking plane is coming right at us. And I'm looking, I said, excuse me, sir, do you know there's a plane coming right at us? And he looks at it and goes, oh. And he dropped that plane like 1,000 feet. Just went whoosh like that. Same lesson. Adults don't know everything. And this really reinforced my mind that even though I'm just a kid, it doesn't mean adults are always right. I certainly respect my parents and I respected the pilot, but I realized they were both wrong. And almost fatally wrong, And so over the years, what does that lesson have to do with us today? Well, I'm a reporter, and I've learned over the years, just as adults don't know everything, our government doesn't know everything. Our leaders don't know everything. Even leaders we respect. Even if Barack Obama said to me something, and I didn't think it was right, I would study it very closely first. I'd think about it, but if I thought he was wrong, I would say to him, here's why I think you're wrong, and why we need to watch the tide come in and watch for planes coming at us. And I think that, in the long run for me as a reporter, paid off for me because the tide coming in on that rock and that plane coming at me taught me adults and authority don't know everything. And we have to be aware ourselves and pay attention ourselves and be conscious of what's around us and be on top of things. So that's Ti-Hua's podcast for today.